Gentlemen, welcome back to Two Mics All Sports. I'm your host Zach Chaby, joined by my co-host Joe Bro. What's going on, man?
So Zach, how you doing?
I'm pretty good, can't complain. So today we're gonna give you guys an MLB free agency recap. Obviously, one of our last videos we gave you was our MLB free agency predictions, but since that video's been posted and we talked about it, some pretty big moves have happened. First, we're gonna start off with the Toronto Blue Jays. After just losing in the World Series last year, they made some moves to bolster their team with Dylan Cease on a 7-year, $210 million contract, and then adding Tyler Rogers to that bullpen. What do you think of those two moves for Toronto, and do you think this will be able to keep them in that World Series contention?
Yeah, pitching is a major thing, especially when you have your powerhouse hitters that we saw in the World Series last year with Otani, Betts, Freeman, and Kiki Hernandez, who just kind of destroyed the pitching staff come late in the games. And your offense obviously was able to put up, but your bullpen in the back half couldn't really set the tone. So updating your pitching staff is just always beneficial no matter for what team you are. And obviously, going out and getting a starter like Cease will also save your bullpen arms depending on how late he goes into games.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I definitely felt like they needed to add like a middle of the guy, like maybe a 2-3, because I liked what they got with Trey Savage in the postseason. He was absolutely incredible. But then you add a guy like Dylan Cease, although he hasn't been the best the past few years, like he's been okay with like a 3.4 ERA. Him into that lineup is gonna, or him in that rotation, I think is gonna do wonders for them and give them that pitcher I felt like they were missing in that postseason last year. And then adding Tyler Rogers after having one of his better seasons last year into a bullpen that really seemed to show their weaknesses in the postseason, especially in the World Series. I think he'll be a great seventh inning guy. And let me ask you this before we talk a little bit more. Do you think this leads the way for them to bring back Bo Bichette? Because Bo Bichette just reported today that he's open to playing second base with other teams.
Those are two big signings. And not everybody can be the Dodgers giving out money left and right. So, yes, it brings back the opportunity for Bo Bichette, but at the same time, Bo Bichette can very well off walk and try to find a team for second base since he's not open to playing it. So would I be surprised that he doesn't sign back with Toronto? No. Would I be surprised if he does resign? Also no.
Yeah, I think he's built enough there to be like it would like that like him going back would make a lot of sense because him and Vladdy have had a connection. They kind of came up at the same time, and yes, he's had some injuries, but he's had some of his best moments. He had a great postseason as a whole, and he's still yes he's been injury prone the past couple years, but he's still relatively young and to where like he could kind of have like a career resurgence in the sense where like yes he's still young, but show the player he was very early in his career that we thought he was going to be one of the best shortstops in the league. He could be like I think a 10 to 15 tier guy, but like I think if they can get that out of him, that'd be great. But like, I think he's built enough reputation where they want him back, but they're also okay with him leaving because I think they'd be able to find different ways. I just think I find it interesting that he's willing to play second base for other teams, which means him leaving is definitely could happen. Like him going out the door definitely it wouldn't be a shocker from the Toronto organization. So, but then talking about more bullpen pitchers, we had Edwin Diaz out of the door with the Mets, finally leaving and joining the Los Angeles Dodgers. What were your thoughts? What were your thoughts on that move when that became official?
I think it's bullshit. You're basically adding another all star to a team of all stars. Um, Obviously, this is the last year of the MLB contract with the players' organization, and we all know what's going to be coming up is a salary cap and the arguments that's going to come with that. And I think a main thing that they're going to bring up is the fact that the Dodgers have spent all this money. Um, but anyway, off of that, Diaz is struggled through injury these past few years, especially in the World Baseball Classic 2 years ago when he got hurt. But he came back, obviously, in the playoffs against the Phillies. Um, but that doesn't take away from anything that he has accomplished. He's still one of the better closers in the league, and even he gets the crowd into it with his intro trumpets. Um, so Dodgers signing him now have an even more of a threat of the bullpen, even after because their bullpen wasn't that good going into the playoffs. You knew once you could get past um, Suzuki and Yamato, you're free. It was open game for the playoffs. So they definitely just helped their odds even better and added an arm to a weak bullpen.
Yeah, I am gonna first start off with the point you made. I think it is complete bullshit because, bro, all of these guys' contracts, most of them are deferred to the 2047 season. Like, these players aren't gonna even hit the salary books that crazy until like they're all pretty much done with their careers. Like at this point, the Dodgers might have 8 World Series by that point. It won't even matter because they'll just be like the greatest dynasty to ever touch the earth. Like it's that plain and simple. Like it's not gonna mean much, and I think it's kind of stupid. And it's what's possibly most likely gonna lead to a strike next year. It's gonna happen. The way things are looking right now, if they go for a three-peat, I think it's gonna happen at least. Even if they don't
They're
get
buying championships.
exactly. But the move as a whole for the Dodgers, I think, is great. Like you said, their biggest weakness last year was their bullpen. But the Dodgers, once again, they have weaknesses. It doesn't really matter because they find strengths in other places that makes up for their weaknesses when it comes down to it. You're not going to be perfect. The perfect teams don't win the World Series. When's the last time we saw a 100-win team win the World Series? I believe it was the 2018 Boston Red Sox. Don't I think that's what it is, but like just going back to that point, like being perfect anymore in the MLB doesn't mean you're going to get perfect succession. The Dodgers had weakness on top of weaknesses in that bullpen, but they found ways to work it. They put Roki Sasaki in the bullpen in the ninth inning because they knew that would work because he wasn't working as a starting pitcher. Like you said, you had Yamamoto out there. He had 2 complete games. Not every pitcher is going to give you that, and that's why they gave him that 12-year contract. You had Tyler Glass now. Obviously, Clayton Kershaw wasn't the pitcher he wasn't, but you found the issues that you had, and then you had put band-aids on them. Now you have your closer. Yes, Edwin Diaz has been injured. Yes, he's been a little inconsistent when it comes down to it. Yes, he'll have a couple good outings, and then he'll have one blown save. But he's still a great pitcher, and you know what you're expecting out of him. And for a Dodgers team, that's going to be huge when they're into these close games, and he comes in for the ninth inning and closes the door maybe 3/4 of the time. Like that, it's that plain and simple. So, but then I want to talk about. I'm guessing the guy that replaced him in Devin Williams. What were your thoughts on that move, Devin Williams going to the Mets?
They obviously replaced an arm, um, but you still don't get that wow factor like you did with Diaz. Um, and the Mets bullpen is nothing outside of perfection. They're not all sunshine and rainbows in their bullpen either. So losing Diaz is definitely a big hit. You lose your hype guy going into the ninth inning because as soon as you would think, as soon as that intro music hits, it's like Johan Duran and Philly. Whenever you see that tarantula start walking across the the outfield walls, you're like, ah, shit, it's done. I don't care who's coming up. Duran's gonna strike you all out 1, 2, 3, 100 mile per hour sinker, and I'll see you later. So the Mets lose their wow factor, and it's definitely a big hit, especially with a guy that we're going to talk about later, Pete Alonso, also leaving. So you got to refine your identity as a team, and your guy and Lindor and Soto really had to step up and try to figure out what are we going to do as a team.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. And it seems like they try to do that, like you said, with Devin Williams and then bringing in Luke Weaver today, 2 former Yankees, them bringing it in. But like you said, that wow factor that Edwin Diaz brings, like I said, he can be inconsistent, but coming off the season that Devin Williams had where he really struggled, having try to replace that role, maybe throw him in as an 8-man, or you're going to have to throw him as your closer too. That's most likely what is going to happen. I just think it's crazy to say the least. And it's like, you see the way things are going right now, and it's like the Mets. They bring in Marcus Semien, which was a shock. They traded him for Brandon Nimmo straight up, and then you thought, oh, they're gonna bring everyone back and try to compete in the NL, and that's not what they're doing. They let Edwin Diaz go, like we mentioned. They let Pete Alonso go, and they're replacing him with they're replacing them with Devin Williams and Luke Weaver, and they haven't even replaced Pete Alonso yet. Or I think Oh, we'll talk about it now. They brought in Jorge Polanco, who they're planning to play at first base, which Jorge Polanco is a good defender, but to play him at first base, I think is definitely a questionable. And you gave him a 2-year, $40 million contract when he only really had a good postseason with the Mariners. Like, yes, he had a bounce back regular season off the first year he had with Seattle, but to give him 2 years, $40 million to play first base, and the offense you're going to lose to Pete Alonso. Yes, don't get me wrong. Pete Alonso is not the best defender, but he makes up for it in his bat. You're not going to get that with Jorge Polanco. You're going to get solid defense, but you're also going to get an average bat. That's what it just comes with at the end of the point. But then, like, I just want to mention with Edwin Diaz, you lose that factor. Devin Williams, you're hoping he could bounce back to what he was in Milwaukee, but you don't know that. If I'm the Mets, I'd rather you bring back a guy that you know what you're going to get out of him, and then expecting, and then trying to bring in a project. If you realistically look at it, you're bringing in a project with Devin Williams, and you're expecting it to hopefully work out. That's not the best. That doesn't how it's not how it works sometimes in the MLB. Projects don't always work out. We saw it last year with Jordan Romano. He was a project, and you saw how bad he was. Now he's on the Angels.
Yeah, I was
So
about to say that when you were mentioning projects. I'm like, put my mind right to Romano. Oh, good luck, L.A. Angels. Holy Jesus.
yeah. But then let's talk about Pete Alonso, man, because not only did they bring in Pete Alonso, they also brought in Taylor Ward to this offense. What do you think those two guys are going to mean to this offense, and can the Orioles get back into the playoffs after these two moves?
Yeah, you could tell they're really trying to get back on top of the AL East and compete with the Yankees and Red Sox. And the Red Sox, I think they're going to be a really good team this year. We saw it late last year, and I was saying in the playoffs, they're a young team. This young team can mature a little bit. Good luck stopping them. So bringing in the veterans, especially Alonso, and you already got a good catcher with Brushman behind the plate, and you got Holiday. So, there's nothing stopping those older guys teaching these young bucks like how to maneuver around the field or giving them tips on pitchers, which would definitely help them. But Alonso signing with Baltimore, that was a big shocker. At least for me, I didn't think he was going to go there.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like that, like we didn't even mention that in our free agency predictions. Like I think I had him going back to the Mets too or something like that. But like the only team that I heard he could go to other than the Mets was the Boston Red Sox. That's the only team I heard. But for him to go there, I think it's huge because like you said, the Orioles are still a young team. They had two surprising back-to-back 100-win and then 90-win seasons, but they got immediately knocked out in the wild card season, the wild card round, because they didn't have offense. You bring Pete Alonso in, you bring Taylor Ward in. That's two immediate bats that are going to improve this lineup around Gunnar Henderson, Jackson Holiday. You said Ali Rushman. You have guys in there that this offense is going to improve almost immediately. Now it's just finding those starting pitchers. Yes, they brought in Ryan Helsley for the bullpen, but they lost Corbin Burns, and you saw how bad they were last year trying to form some type of rotation with a bunch of veteran guys and how it didn't work. If they can bring in maybe a Zach Gallen through free agency or someone like that, I'm feeling a whole lot better about the Orioles getting back to the playoffs. But this is a step in the right direction by their management, and I like it. Try to get this team back into the playoffs because now you have the offense, in my opinion, to compete against these teams. So, but now, what this majority of this episode is going to be about, let's talk about what the Phillies have done so far. Obviously, Kyle Schwarber is back. 5 years, $125 million. What are your thoughts about that, Joe?
I like. I feel like I like the move. You knew you were gonna get either Schwarber, Realmuto back, if not both. But at the same time, it obviously will come with its struggles. Schwarber was off and on all season. When he was hot, he was hot. But as soon as his bat went cold, it was cold. He would go for. He had the 4 home run game. Then he was cold for 2 weeks. Then he'll have another 2 home run game and then cold. Then obviously in the playoffs against the Dodgers, he was cold for a couple of games. He had that big game in LA and then cold game 4, and they weren't able to get it done. So am I mad about the move? No. But it comes back to what I was saying in our playoff video. Timely hitting. The Phillies didn't have timely hitting. they had the big power hitters, but they had no protection for those big power hitters. So they could just pitch around them, which we saw them do to Schwarber and Harper. But hopefully, with Crawford coming up this year, that will help solve that idea of walking around Schwarber and Harper.
Yeah. If I can be honest with you, no disrespect to Kyle Schwarber, I don't understand bringing him back because yes, he was so pivotal for you in the regular season, but if you want to move in the right direction, you need to get rid of this core. My honest opinion, I would have let him walk to Cincinnati, in my honest opinion, and go pay big money for a Bregman or a Tucker. Show me that you're trying to move forward, not trying to stay in the present, or not trying to stay in the past. Move to the freaking future at this point. This team had its chances in 2022 and 2023. They didn't do it. They tried to run it back in 2024. It didn't work. They tried to run it back last year. It didn't work again. And it kind of seems like they're trying to do that again, but with little ramifications here and there. It's not going to work. You have Alec Bohm at third base, who's one of the worst hitters when it comes to third baseman. He's a 6'5" third baseman that can't even hit out of the ballpark. He's a ground ball hitter at this point. He can't hit the ball. He's almost 30 freaking years old, and I've gone on and on about him for the past few years. He's not a major league power hitter. He's a contact guy. He's going to get you 12, 13 home runs, maybe about 60 to 70 RBIs, and he's not going to get much out of you. Go pay an Alex Bregman. You know what he has the caliber to do in the postseason. Go get a Kyle Tucker. Put him in right field because Schwarber is not serving you that much. He's going to be your DH no matter what. All he's going to be doing is hitting for you. When you have the way the outfield looks like now, which is what I want to talk about with Dave Dombrowski, you're set with an outfielder. Brandon Marsh, Justin Crawford, and Adolis Garcia. I'll get more in depth to that when we talk about Garcia. But still, it's like Schwarber, you know what he's going to do for you. He's going to maybe hit 35, maybe 40, maybe even 50 home runs for you. Get close to 100 RBIs. But when it comes down to it, him, Trey Turner, and Bryce Harper are going to come up short for you in the postseason. Bringing in new blood like a Kyle Tucker and Alex Bregman, I felt would have done wonders, and it just seems like they don't want to move from that. This is an embarrassment. I'm at this point. I'm sorry, with Dave Dombrowski. He does not want to move forward. It's not even on the manager at this point, which I can't stand Rob Thompson. And you have Kevin Long, who had one of his worst years last year, and you give him a 3-year contract extension and expect him to do different things with the same players. It's not how it works. Maybe if you brought in a Kyle Tucker and Alex Bregman, things would be different, but I don't know.
No, and I guess we could touch up on the Edroles Garcia free agent signing, a year, $10 million. I'm pretty sure it was. And I don't like how Dombrowski is setting up the outfield. Like, you get your Gold Glover and Garcia and Wright. I like that move because obviously Castellanos out there, but platooning with your Kepler wasn't everybody's like lockdown fielding like we would love to see. So now we got a Gold Glove outfielder and Garcia out there. I'm like, all right, now we got like mobileness, and then you got Crawford coming up playing left, and I like he's gonna have his growing pains like they all do. So I'm expecting a lot from him based on his highlights in AAA and his field work. But center field, I'm sorry, but I really wanted Harrison Bader back. I don't think he is. I'm pretty sure they were talking to him about signing a $10 million deal. I was reading something about it today, and he declined it. But it's either you get Real Muto or you get Bader. I don't think you're getting both of them if you're trying to work out contracts with them. But then you have a no-fly zone in your outfield. Even with Marsh is a great outfielder too, don't get me wrong. But Bader was that contact hitter. Crawford, hopefully that contact hitter. Stott, slow first half of the year. Second half really went off. Contact hitter. Turner during the regular season. Contact hitter. Hopefully these players could continue that into the postseason. We didn't see it with Turner, but we saw it with Stott. Hopefully with Garcia and Crawford coming up. But they really needed to look at the outfield, and they really need to start working on their depth, because if you could get that whole outfield covered, and get those triples and turn them into doubles based off your field work, that's big in itself.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be huge, but like at the same time, the one thing I am gonna disagree with you about a little bit is I'm tired of being satisfied with contact hitters. I want people that can hit it out of the ballpark. Yes, you know what you're getting with Bryson Stott, Alec Boehm. Justin Crawford is a contact hitter. Hopefully he can develop a little bit of power, but you know he hits for a high ground ball rate. But he had like a 320 average in AAA. Garcia, you're bringing him in for his power. But you're bringing Dave Dombrowski has now done this 3 years in a row. He did it with Whit Merrifield, he did it with Max Kepler, and he did it with Adolis Garcia. He loves his 1 year, $10 million contracts. That's not gonna work. You go pay big money for big players to make big improvements. And in my honest opinion, so far this offseason for me, I'm going to be frank, it's a D. And the only way that can save it, if you go get a Ketel Marte, or maybe, just maybe, can bring in an Alex Bregman. I'm sorry. As of right now, this offseason is a D because you don't. The big thing for me that I was looking forward to this offseason is a step in the right direction. But it seems like you're sticking at square one and have no idea or no intentions to move forward. It's that plain and simple, and it just makes me frustrated because there's players out there for you to get. It's not like there's no players out there. There's plenty of players that you can pay big money to. The Dodgers, for crying out loud. We talk about them. They won the World Series back-to-back years, but they're getting better every year. They had that World Series mentality. There's teams that are getting better than you. There's teams that are willing to pay the big money to get big results. It's that plain and simple. You can't compare yourself to the Dodgers because the Dodgers are 10 times better than you, organizationally wise, performance wise, and when it comes down to it, big moment wise. So,
Yeah, unfortunately, Zach, I would have to disagree with you. I think the Phillies are having a somewhat decent off season. I think I would grade it a B. I know you graded it a D, but I like the outfield moves. I like how they're prioritizing defense. Um, and I disagree with the yes, power is good and all, but we saw what power has done for the past few years. Your power guys didn't come up short. You get your hot and cold streaks. Your contact hitters is what wins you championships. Kiki Hernandez for the Dodgers. What did he do? Make contact. Put the ball in play. Good things happen. Kiki Hernandez put the ball in play. What did Kirkring do?
yeah.
Exactly. So that wasn't power. That's just putting bat on ball.
Yeah. But what I mean with the power things is that where the guys that you are expecting power out of, are giving you contact. Like I say, Alec Boehm. Most of the time, third basemen, what are they? Power hitters. It's just the basis of what third basemen usually are. You got the Nolan Arenados. You have the Alex Bregmans. You have these guys that are out there who are meant to be power hitters, and they serve to that role. And Alec Boehm, I just think I'm pissed off about Alec Boehm because he has the frame to be a power hitter, and he's just not. Stott, I'm accepted the fact that he's a good contact hitter. I'm not no problem with that. But I think what I'm mad about is Justin Crawford. Yes, he's a good contact hitter, but if that's what we're expecting out of these hitters, then we're just getting Roman. We might just get Roman Quinn and Johan Rojas over again. I know that's crazy to say, but the last time we had contact hitters that were super fast, those what they turned out to be. Like power, because Harrison Bader, we might not bring him back. He's a combination of speed and power. He's a contact hitter, but he hit a couple home runs that were huge for us last year. And you saw the difference he made when he got hurt in Game 1 of the division series. He would have been a huge part. He was our best protection behind Bryce Harper, for crying out loud, after Kyle
Mm-hmm.
Schwarber and Trey Turner. It was that plain and simple because no one else knew how to do it. And you had Nick Castellanos in here. Yes, that doesn't serve to my opinion of a power hitter working out well here. But sometimes it's not about what type of power hitter you're getting. It's about how they can mix their power with their contact. And I just don't think we have enough of those in this lineup to succeed. Okay. But talking about the last move that the Phillies made, Brad Keller we brought in today, who had a 2.07 or 2.4 or 2.7 ERA last year with the Cubs. We had a 4-2 record, I think, in 75 innings pitched. What are your thoughts about that move and how he could slot right into the a hole right behind, right ahead of Johan Duran?
Yeah, I think it's a good move. You get a bullpen arm that is playoff worthy. He shut down the Brewers with bases loaded, got the Cubs out of the jam. He's built for high leverage situations. But then again, we saw that with Romano with his 1 year deal here last year. We're like, oh, Romano, he's just good pitcher from Toronto. He seems battle tested. And what happened? Came in here, got the shit hit out of him, and now we're saying fuck you, Romano, and go fuck yourself in LA with a struggling Angels team who we all know won't go anywhere. Um, but I feel like this could be a good move. You get Alvarado back this year. You had him last year, but now he's able to play in the playoffs. Strom, he had an off postseason. Maybe he was tipping his pitches, maybe he wasn't. But that's if all four of those guys and Kirkering, if he could use that game 4 ending as like a Jalen Hurts Super Bowl loss to Kansas City, scary bullpen. And your starters are already scary with Wheeler if he comes back with the injury. Nola, he's expected to have a good year this year. And, you got our big guy, Sir Anthony. He's going to I think he's going to win Cy Young this year.
You mean Jesus
I felt
Luzardo?
Like Jesus Luzardo, he could win Cy Young too.
You said Sir Anthony.
It's tomato. But yeah, especially since you lose Ranger Suarez, it's a big thing to fix up your pitching.
Yeah. No, I think I like it in the sense where they finally decided to get away from the 1 year contracts with relievers. They throw out 1 year contracts to Jordan Romano, Carlos Hernandez, and Joe Ross, and you see how that works out. You give this guy a 2 year contract. You know the role he's going to play, and I think it's great because if he can replicate what he did last year with Chicago, it's going to be impossible if Wheeler or Luzardo or Nola even or Sanchez goes 7 innings.
Sanchez is who I meant. That's Sir Anthony.
Yeah, if they go 7 innings, and those two guys are the guys that finish the 8th or 9th inning, it's going to be impossible to stop. So I do like it in that sense. I think, but then I want to ask you this before we wrap things up. You talk about the starting rotation. Where do you think Andrew Painter fits in all this? Because he has to come up at this point. He's had too many Tommy John surgeries. He didn't look the best last year after coming off his second. Where do you think he fits in? Because I think at this point he has to come up. There's no choice.
Yeah, I think he's going to be our 5. I think he'll slip into the 6 once Wheeler comes back healthy off the blood clot. So I really think Painter's going to have a big breakout year. We saw with Abel last year when he came up. He had a good few games, and obviously that helped his trade market. If Painter has a good first 4 or 5 games and then kind of falls off, you could start thinking about trading him. Get young prospects or get another certified arm in the bullpen you could even get, or 3 or 4 in the rotation, because you need it.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I'm just hoping for the best out of him this point. Like, coming off 2 Tommy Johns are tough, and, like, it's concerning the way he looked last year because he was just giving up meatballs after meatballs to these AAA guys. So hopefully you can get some type of spark out of him as the 5th pitcher and not expect too much out of him, but then also be that guy that can go out there and maybe give you 4 or 5 innings of maybe 6 strikeouts. I would take that every 5th day. So, but before we wrap things up, is there any move in particular, as of right now, is on December 17th at 9:14 p.m. that you want any move that you're really looking at the Phillies they should make during this offseason period that you want to see happen?
Yeah, I think I made it clear I want Bader back. I think he was just a big role for the team and he really knocked it out of the park with his short tenure here in Philly. I think if you get that center fielder instead of doing a platoon with Marsh on a right-handed bat, you get your guaranteed everyday outfielder, and you don't have to worry about having an a cold or a hot bat with Marsh or whoever they decide to be the right-handed bat to platoon with them.
Yeah. In my opinion, I want to get Peter Fairbanks, the former Rays pitcher. I think if you throw him in this rotation, you can also throw him as a starting pitcher too, if you'd like. I think he gives you a lot flexibility wise. So to bring him in on a nice 2 3 year contract, I think would be perfect. But this is going to wrap up today's episode as a whole. But as we usually do, Joe, do you want to give the audience what to expect in the next coming days or just in the future?
Future definitely um Flyers, Sixers stuff. We're obviously watching them and seeing how they're doing. But there's just a lot of other big stuff out right now, like MLB free agency, players are moving, NFL season's coming to a close. And then obviously college football playoffs. We're doing a prediction video this week for you guys. We'll have that out before playoffs start. But other than that, Zach is gonna be on injured reserve for a couple of days to getting his wisdom teeth removed. So I will be taking over the hot takes for a few days. So please send DM Zach or me or the two Mike All Sports on Instagram with any sports hot takes that you would like us to either react to or just your thoughts that you would want to get our input for.
Yeah, like Joe said, I will be getting my wisdom teeth out on Friday. So at least for Friday, he'll be taking over the hot takes. Maybe the weekend, we'll see how I feel. But like Joe said, keep sending them in. I've appreciated them to say the least. Reacting to them every day has given me something to stay consistent with the channel. I know me and Joe haven't recorded in a while. I've been busy with finishing final stuff up for college, and then Joe's just been busy with work. But we wanted to make sure we got this episode out for you guys. But like I said, keep sending them in. Maybe if they go so we can continue this for another holiday that happens. But like I said, this is going to wrap up today's episode. We'll talk to you guys later. Have a good rest of your night. We'll see you guys later. Peace.